What's up, you guys? And of course, welcome to another alternative factuals video. And please be sure to, of course, like, share, and of course subscribe. Let me know all that good stuff, your comments and opinions about videos like this or the other videos or anything related to the topic. And without further ado, I wanted to get that over with and kind of dive into everything that I've wanted to do in terms of today's video. Now, this is something a little random, but also something I've been thinking about, especially with the success of Swamp Thing. Now, before anybody says clearly it's not successful because they're canceling it, that's due to many various different reasons, but I'm not going to dive into that. But it has nothing to do with the ratings. Actually, people have universally accepted how good Swamp Thing is. Actually, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm actually disappointed that the first season is going to be its last. But before I dive into any of that, that's a whole nother video and all that stuff. So let's dive into today's topic. So what I want to kind of talk about is the Incredible Hulk in the MCU period. Now, obviously, we already know that the Incredible Hulk cannot have a solo film, so to speak. But however, there is a way they can probably finesse their way around that and somehow get him in his own film or anything related to telling a story about the Hulk in such a way. And there's a storyline that I'm actually very interested in that's actually going on right now, and that is the Immortal Hulk run. Now, for those of you who are not reading the Immortal Hulk, I'm not going to try and spoil it for you or anything like that, but it is definitely something you need to be reading. But I will give you the gist of the story. In this part of the story, this is the Incredible Hulk. Now, for those of you who do read comics, or anyone who does understand what's going on in terms of what's happening with the Incredible Hulk character, remember, initially Bruce Banner was killed, and I believe it was the Avengers number 16, if I remember correctly. I'm not too sure about that. I believe it was. Actually, no, it was Hawkeye killed him in Civil War 2 number 3, actually, with a vibranium gamma irradiated arrow. So that is something that we're kind of have to reference in order to make a point on why they should actually keep going with this kind of concept if they were to introduce the Incredible Hulk into the MCU. So he was killed, and then he was resurrected at some point. And like I said, I'm not going to get into very specifics. I'm just kind of rushing through this. He was resurrected, and then he was brought back, obviously kind of roaming around, doing his thing, being Bruce Banner and the Incredible Hulk. However, the Incredible Hulk seemed very different. And in this storyline, they actually explore the concept of gamma radiation in itself, saying that it is not just simply a form of energy that exists in the universe that comes from different forms of nuclear reactions and the collisions of atoms or whatever you want to call it. But the thing that's interesting about this is they give it more of a mystical aspect, where they tell this story more like a horror story. And in this story too, Bruce Banner can't seem to Hulk out when he gets angry, but the Hulk only seems to come out at night. So this is literally like a horror film being written in comic book form. And I love it because they don't just introduce, the Incredible Hulk. They include several other characters, where Crusher Creedle was involved as well. And you do have people who jump in, who try to, move the plot along. And we do get a reference to Bruce Banner's father and the fact that he somehow was involved with this being called the One Below All. And I'm not getting into details. Like I said, this is just the Cliff Notes version. However, this is what they can do in order to introduce this concept into the MCU. Now, we're not going to make this into an individual film, so to speak, but we can make sure that they do this as some form of the Avengers or New Avengers, or this can be one of those subset stories that exist in another character's kind of point of view. But this is something that they can do in the MCU going forward. So let's say, hypothetically, they can introduce this concept in another Thor movie or something related to Thor, or let's say the New Avengers, because obviously they're going to be earthbound because they're dealing with Spider-Man, and the Hulk and Spider-Man do have a relationship, and various other characters. Cool. What they can do is, okay, these group of heroes are recognizing that there's something going on all over the world, or something across the world, or something randomly in a specific place in the world. So they go investigate. They notice that there's a lot of gamma radiation, residual gamma radiation going on in those specific areas, but they're trying to figure out who it is. And of course the person that they call is going to be Bruce Banner, because he is the guy who specializes in gamma radiation and a lot of its traits and features. And at this point, we can kind of use that as a way of saying Bruce Banner is not fully aware of what he's doing at night, as well as maybe there's a reason he's not telling them, but we can get into the details a little later. This is just me kind of, spitballing here. But he can actually, let's say, not be aware of what's going on with the Incredible Hulk, especially because something seems different about his Hulk form ever since he wielded the Infinity Gauntlet that Tony Stark made with the Infinity Stones in it. Remember, there is a moment in the movie of Endgame when he says that the Infinity Stones are primarily made of gamma radiation mixed with other cosmic energies, of course, meaning that can be a reference to something that can happen to him in the future, because not only did he mess up gamma radiation in order to make his Professor Hulk form, but he's also being introduced to more gamma radiation from the Infinity Stones, as well as different types of energies which could affect his gamma radiation on some form of cellular. Now, after we kind of see that, over the course of time, he starts to figure out that, hey, this possibly could be him. At some point, he tries his best to stay in his human form, or try his best not to go to sleep, or whatever the case may be, in order to prevent the Hulk from coming out. And then remember, the Immortal Hulk in the comic books right now, it is not the most powerful form of him, but he is a lot more powerful than his typical base form. And this was recognized when he was able to give Thor a concussion in one of the issues. And remember, Thor is highly durable, extremely powerful, and he is no joke in himself. And he was able to knock a tooth clean out of Thor's mouth, which was insane. But regardless, this is one of the more powerful forms of the Hulk. And remember, he still gets stronger the angrier he gets, as well as in the Immortal Hulk form, he is still highly intelligent. Maybe not necessarily Professor Hulk level or someone who's able to strategize completely, but he is still very much coherent. He can form full sentence and word endings and all that stuff. He's able to communicate. But what I kind of want them to introduce is the fact that this version of the Hulk is a side effect of him wielding the Infinity Gauntlet, as well as a side effect of whatever trauma that we still have not yet figured out about Bruce Banner. Remember, we didn't really know much about this Bruce Banner in reality. Even in the Incredible Hulk movie that came out before the Avengers did, when introducing this whole MCU situation and the Avengers and the Avengers Initiative, we didn't really know much about the Hulk. We always knew the basic stuff, where he was on a run from, General Ross and, the whole Betty Ross thing and all that stuff. We knew that already, but we didn't really know his past. We didn't really know what's going on with his dad, the abusive relationship that he experienced, and the reason why the Incredible Hulk or the Immortal Hulk in this particular story would have multiple personalities, and the reason why the Hulk reacts the way that he does in certain situations when his back is kind of against the wall. But these are concepts I would love to see introduced into the MCU, especially because, one, they can tell this story in like a rated R, or even if it's not rated R, more like a thriller, slight horror kind of feel to it, because that's the way it's written in the comics. But also they could use this to kind of tell a story about the Hulk without necessarily giving him a solo film, but using other characters as support, as well as telling the story from their perspective based on what they see from the Incredible Hulk himself. So that would be a dope concept. But let me know what you think about this, the Immortal Hulk making its way to the MCU, and how you feel like they should do it, and how you feel like would be the best version of him, I guess. But you let me know in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your opinions, all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I hope to see you later on. Peace out.